Hey there, viewers. Welcome back to Supermariodiagnostics. People are losing their minds over this email that has gone around confirming that a NASTIF login will be required in order to do immobilizer-related functions in aftermarket scan tools. Some people are very happy. Some people are extremely pissed. And it's insane how controversial this topic is. I figured why not make a video touching on the subject since it's relevant to our industry. I really don't know where you stand on this. You can leave that in the comments section. You're going to be either really against it or really for it. I personally am for it. I wasn't before though. I really was adamant against this whole NASTIF deal. It's a money grab. It's controlled. Why don't we just tell the OEs to do what we want them to do or stop selling their cars here? And I got to tell you, I was after a lot of talking to several people, a lot of digging, I've had a change of opinion on this whole matter. Here's the email that, I just shared the email. All I said was, coming to a tour near you, right? And everyone lost it. It's actually kind of funny because I put way worse things online and it didn't garner such a response. So a couple things about this, right? NASTIF is not a government entity. There's a lot of rumors, there's a lot of misconceptions, and that's one of them. NASTIF is not a government entity. Let's just put that to rest. Everyone was thinking, oh, it's been rumored that this was gonna happen, and Autel came out and said we're not gonna do it. Autel, I think, was the first one to sign up. This is a voluntary ordeal. One of the other misconceptions is people think that this is gonna completely block the tool. A couple of months ago, one of the scan tools, Autel, did an update, and if you did not have internet, you couldn't even scan the vehicle. You could not even go through eOBD or anything, and people lost their minds as well. I said, well, that's a little weird. And they think that this is what's gonna happen this time around as well. That's not what's gonna happen. So in the email, as you have seen earlier, there will be a login page for immobilizer-related functions only, not every other thing that you need the scan tool for, only immobilizer security-related functions. Now, what the OE deems is security-related is up in the air, right? Because they, depending on the manufacturer, there could be two modules, right? The immobilizer and a PCM as part of the immobilizer system and the key. But you go with other brands and they'll do the transmission, they'll do component protection all over the place. You name it, that car's locked down, right? So I think one of the pros of this thing is that, in my opinion, right, my limited experience and opinion, this will lessen the amount of hacks, right? We know, let's not get this twisted, right? A hack is someone who wants to do it but really isn't trained and just like tries to wing it. And a real hack, in my opinion, is someone where they can brick the module themselves. They could try to program a key and brick the module, and they will gladly tell the customer, hey, listen, you're on your own. Bye-bye. There's no accountability, there's no answering for that kind of work, and that's a problem, right? In my opinion, that's a problem because not only the public perception of it all, right? Because the public will say, oh, well, this guy, he's a locksmith came by, right? Because they don't know any better. They don't know if it's Joe Schmo or if it's an actual professional locksmith who's insured and licensed and all that. So to them, it's just, oh, this locksmith or this shop bricked my computer and completely washed their hands free of it. So it truly does damage to our public perception as well and trust. So I do think that it will lessen the amount of times, the amount of people who are gonna do that, because now you're vetted. Now you have a business, you have to have insurance to get NASTIF, right? We'll probably just walk through a couple of the requirements of NASTIF because everyone thinks it's like impossible to get. Believe it or not, I got my VSP in 3 days. And that's because I failed to one of the steps. One of the steps I completely screwed up. I would have had it the next day. From the time that I got my certificate of good standing with the state to the time that I got my VSP was a total of 3 days. So it's not hard to get, really. And I know this might seem a little biased. I'm for it. what is this, a NASTIF video. It's not. Like I said, I didn't care for it at first. I was completely against it. I very passionately too, but things have changed. So another things I think that will come as a result of this is you'll also get a lot of, like, what do you think is going to happen when everyone has access to any tool that could just do keys left and right, especially one as powerful as some of the aftermarket tools that we've seen, where they can cover a lot of ground with just one tool, right? And say what you will, yeah, sure, they'll find another way, whatever. But if these aftermarket companies jump on board, what will happen is that if everyone teams up and does this, we'll basically get rid of all the bottom feeding, freaking race to the bottom, $50 locksmiths, because there are costs involved. You have to have your business licenses, you have to have insurance, you have to have credentials, you have to pay your subscriptions if you want to do certain things. Besides, the OE is not giving us another option. The OE is pushing towards this, whether we like it or not. And in reality, as much as we would like to twist their arm and give us access, for them to give us access, it's really up to them to decide, okay, maybe if we do it this way, we'll give the aftermarket security access. Because in reality, right to repair doesn't cover any of that. It doesn't say that they have to give us immobilizer access. They don't. This is their answer to that. And I wasn't there personally, but there was an event where the Secret Service and government officials shared the statistics with the aftermarket and said, this is why you guys should be supporting NASTIF. Say what you will. I know I'm not for government and interjection into anything really, but they did have a thing or two to say about the reality of the situation, the thefts that are going on, the locksmiths that are getting held up at gunpoint. I know one personally that got held up at gunpoint for their tools and for their vans and for their equipment. So just like radios, right? What happened back in the day? Anybody would just take a radio, put it into another car, would call it a day. But what did they start doing? Radio codes. How many radio thefts do you see now, right? It's the same concept. It's a deterrent. It's a theft deterrent. Will it completely absolve us of all thefts? No, but it will definitely throw a wrench into their operation, right? So once the code started becoming required for radios, and now there's component protection, all these things, radio thefts have gone down drastically. Same thing's gonna happen once you do these, once you have some kind of barrier of entry, a vetted barrier of entry. Once you do that with these scan tools, that's the same concept. It should have a very similar outcome. At least that's the way I see it. Another thing to know is that people are asking, well, do you have to fill out a D1 form every single time you use the scan tool for immobilizer related functions? No, you don't. By signing in to the tool through using your NASTIF login, you are essentially doing the vetting process. You're doing the D1 form. It's grabbing the VIN number. It's already grabbing all this information for you, so you don't have to fill out a D1 form each and every single time. It's almost like people are looking for any kind of a reason to just hate on this process, and I get it because I was there. I was doing the same thing, but I don't think it's like that anymore. So this will be bad for a few shops. This will be bad for many shops. This will be bad for the shops who do not get a VSP, plain and simple. If you cannot get a business card, an insurance policy that's pretty cheap, a certificate of good standing, if you cannot show that you have a legitimate business, then you won't be able to get a VSP. If you have a background issue, if you have prior felonies, theft-related issues, you're not going to be able to get a VSP. But I do know that the people at NASTIF are human beings just like you and I, and I'm sure that even if you have some kind of a record, it wouldn't hurt you to give it a shot, reach out to them, tell them, explain your story, and get that credential if you see the need for it, which you will eventually. Look at 21 and up Fords. You cannot do a PCM without a VSP. Let's say the original module doesn't work. You are SOL. You are completely done. You are taking that thing to the dealer, or somebody is walking into your shop with the VSP in order to get that job done for you. Everyone thinks it's a money grab. I used to think so as well. They just want your money. It takes money to run an organization. How else are you gonna get all these things happening? How else are you going to get the OE to listen to us? It takes money. It costs money. That's the way it is. And it's nothing new. It costs less. It costs more to buy a Snap-on socket set than to get a VSP. So I don't know what people are complaining about with the money. A lot of people think that this is only for the people who've got money, successful shops, wealthy shop owners. That's not true. I'm a technician. I'm still employed. I'm still here, right? I still got Autobahn Performance right here. I got my VSP. Why? Because I saw the need. I'm into programming. I'm into doing stuff. I'm into getting the cars fixed, no matter what. And VSP is just another tool to get that job done. That's just the way it is. That being said, if you want any more information on how to get a VSP, I'll put a link in the description. You can take a look for yourself. It's really not that complicated. You just got to show proof that you're a legitimate business, you got insurance to cover your ass, and you're a well-meaning person. That's it. That's like a basic requirement. And now, yes, I am a tech, but I also have my own business. That's completely off topic, but in case anybody was wondering, well, how does this guy, a tech, have a VSP? You have to have a business. You have to have insurance. I, a technician, can afford to have a business and insurance in order to get the VSP. It is not that hard. It is actually very simple. Look at the OE tools that will not let you do any PCM replacement, BCM replacement. Look at Rover, Range Rover, Land Rover, VSP required. That little thing that says the Trust Center, that's the VSP. You have to put in your login in order to gain access to those tools. Otherwise, you will not be able to configure as new. You will only be able to configure used modules. That will not let you write a VIN into a module. So you get a PCM for a Rover, you don't have your VSP, you sign in, you skip the Trust Center. All you can do is configure a used module, an existing module. You cannot write a VIN. You cannot adapt a new one into that vehicle. That's the PCM. That's not even a key or an immobilizer. Look at Porsche. You got to fill out a contract, show your ID. You got to show that you're a VSP holder just to get access to Porsche tools. It's not the government, it's not NASTF that's restricting us. The OE is restricting access to the aftermarket unless you're vetted. Look at Mercedes. You got to have your VSP just to get theft-related components. You want a TCM? You want a conductor plate? You want a steering lock? You want an ignition switch? An EIS? A key? You got to have a VSP. Or you're going to just go find someone with a VSP to order it for you, unless you're the customer. Look at the newer Fords. You can't even do a parameter reset without a VSP on the newer stuff. You want to do a PCM on a Ford? You're going to have to do a VSP process. A login. You need your VSP for Ford. Bentley requires a VSP. VW and Audi does not. That's a separate background check. But Bentley does. You are required to have your VSP to use Bentley tools. Honda. You want to do immobilizer related functions on Honda? You got to have a VSP. You want to buy a key code? You got to have your VSP. Tesla. You want to add a key to a Tesla for your customer? You got to have a NASTF login. You own an AutoLogic and you want to do immobilizer related functions? Guess what? You need a VSP for them as well. Just because you're paying them $300 something a month for service doesn't mean that you get instant access to their immobilizer related programming. Chrysler, you want to do a BCM or a RF hub on a Chrysler, you're going to have a PIN code. You can only get that PIN code from the dealer, which won't work with aftermarket YTAG, or you can get the PIN from NASTF. You pay the $30 and you get the PIN to do the job. Pass the savings on to the customer. So whether you like it or not, that's where it's going. That's just how it is. The OEs are pushing for this stuff. I don't know why people are thinking that this is a government agency trying to gain more control over us. Actually, I do know that why people think that, because I used to think the same thing. It was because of lack of information. I did not do my digging. I was openly talking about these things and I wasn't doing my homework. So that's why people are really against NASTF. Now, in the end of the day, you're gonna have to make up your own mind. You're either gonna get with NASTF, do it the OE way, or find a way around it. But with the way things are going, you're not gonna have a choice pretty soon. You're not gonna have a choice, and eventually there are some cars you just won't be able to do until you get that VSP. So is this the call to go get your VSP? Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. It's really up to you to decide. I'm just trying to share the little that I know about this whole situation, this controversial topic. So thank you all for taking the time to watch. Leave a comment in the comment section. I'm sure you will. I'm sure I'm going to get a lot of bashing for it. But you know what? It's got to be talked about. If we don't talk about it, if everyone agreed, it'll be a giant echo chamber. So it's through dialogue and through disagreements and through hashing it out formally and professionally that we actually can do something about things, about the things that are going on in this industry. Once we start resorting to insults and once we start, throwing each other under the bus and doing all kinds of poor arguments, it really becomes unproductive and nothing gets done. And we end up exactly where we've been for the last who knows how many decades, just going in circles, fighting each other instead of working together and getting ahead as an industry. I think we should really rethink the way we communicate with each other and work it out and stop losing our temper every time somebody disagrees with us and try to reason with them and see who comes out correct, and see what you can learn from it. Anyway, that's it for today. Thank you all for taking the time to watch. I'll catch you on the next one. Take care.